The radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this November 1st. Happy Halloween. I guess yesterday was Halloween, and we did the show on Donald Trump. I guess that fits. That fits. Scary stuff. So today, we're going to take a shift to the lighter side. We're going to talk about some positive stories. Hard to believe, but there are some positives out there in the world, and we'll talk about those. We'll talk about the stock market. It went up today. That's positive, I guess, if you have money in the stock market. But I want to talk a little bit about why it went up, just because I think it illustrates something interesting that I've talked about before that might be of interest to you. We'll talk about DEI. We'll talk about the oil and gas industry. Pretty amazing. And then we'll talk about the U.S. economy more broadly. I've got some really cool graphs to show you for those of you who don't believe, who have no faith in the U.S. economy. And then we'll talk about glp-1. glp-1, which is, we've talked about this before, about how much of a miracle drug it is, but we just get more and more data on this. And then I've got a Halloween story out of China, which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, I don't know if we'll do the other ones. Anyway, we'll see. Not a very long show today because I started late, so probably an hour and a half or so. And also, yeah. So just to catch you up, I just got back from physical therapy, so it's hard. It's not hard. It's painful. It's not hard. It's actually easy. It's painful. And I'm not on medication, so it was just painful. So, but the good news, and this is Good News Friday, range of motion dramatically increasing. I can do stuff now that I couldn't do 2 days ago. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I really don't need this sling. I really shouldn't be wearing this sling. It really is a question of my independent judgment versus my doctor's. And I'm still going to go with the doctor. I know. You guys don't believe in experts anymore, and experts are out, and we should get rid of experts and not pay attention to them. I'm old-fashioned that way. You know, I try to listen to my doctor within bounds. I'm wearing the sling less and less during the day, particularly if I'm sitting and watching TV and stuff. But that's also with his approval. So whether I really need this for 6 weeks, I doubt. But I'm not going to see him until 6 weeks. So there we go. We're going to do it. So anyway, yeah, things are going well, and I am definitely healing. I feel better about this trip coming up. It's a big trip. It's a long trip. It's about 10 days, but it's 2 continents, U.S. and South America. I feel better about it. I'm less worried about it, so that's good as well. And I've got a great program. I'm doing 2 events in Nashville, 2 events in Denver, 4 events in Buenos Aires, and 1 event in Vitoria. So things are you know, that it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited about all of that. What else did I want to say on the info? Oh yeah, I bought my Mac. I bought the Mac Mini, so thank you for all of you for encouraging me to do that. It won't arrive until December, when I'll be in Australia. I think it arrives December 3rd or something like that. I'll be in Australia. But that means that right after Australia, right after I get back from actually Japan, we'll rev it up and take it for a spin, and that should be a lot of fun. I maxed out on it. I figured I'm not going to save an extra $200 here. Just go full on board, and this machine will last for a long time, and we'll have a lot less issues. So Mac Mini M4 Pro, 64 gigabyte of RAM, 1 terabyte of hard drive space. What else? I mean, just, yeah, everything tops, except for the except for the hard drive space. I don't need more than 1 terabyte. I actually don't even need a terabyte. But it's good to have a little bit of safety there, particularly over time. So, yeah, I mean, no, I don't need 2 terabyte. 1 terabyte is fine. I've got everything in the cloud, and it doesn't. Nothing has to be replicated on the ground in hard drives. But yeah, the 64 gigabyte. I mean, of memory. I mean, that's unbelievable. That's bigger than my hard drives used to be. Not that long ago, I remember. And just the power of an M4 Pro. So it was over $2,000, but I think it's going to be a blast. I think it's going to improve the setup, and the next step then is going to be to upgrade the camera. I think that'll have an impact on the picture quality. Colors will be more vivid. Everything will be a little sharper. I'll work on that. Probably in December when I get back from all this traveling. In December when we get back from Asia and Australia and Europe, we'll look at that. But so yeah, upgrading. Everything's upgrading. My travel next week does mean I'm not sure about shows. We will have to see. We'll definitely have a show on Friday. We'll definitely have a show on Monday. Maybe probably not on Tuesday. Monday, and then certainly Friday, Saturday we'll have shows. Yeah, I think so. I just don't know about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are going to be tough. I'll see what I can do. I'll see if I can sneak something in there. But I will try. And then the following week, I'll be in Buenos Aires and Vitoria. It's going to be tough to do shows just because they've got me so busy, doing everything. All right, I think that's it. I think we jump in and talk a little bit about this stuff. Okay, so let's start with the stock market. I mean, I just think this is an interesting example, and I hope you guys also think so. And it's one I've probably talked about before, but it's always good for those of you who are investors. So today the stock market went up. Companies in the Dow Jones and I think the S&P 500 were all up. Earlier today, at least. I didn't check it out at 4 p.m. East Coast time. And the actually, no, it says after the closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrial rose 0.8%. S&P 500 was 0.7%. I mean, those are healthy gains. Those are nice gains. Tech heavy. NASDAQ was up 0.9%. And okay, so all of them went up. And you go, okay, there must have been some good news. And you look around and you actually find that the news this morning was kind of bad news. The main piece of economic news was that job growth slowed. That is, job growth was lower than what analysts, economists were expecting. Less jobs were created recently than last month than was expected. And you go, wait a minute, so the bad news, but the stock market went up. How does that work? Why does that work? Why does the stock market go up when there's bad news? And the reason is this. I mean, to the extent that you can explain any stock movement on any given day. But generally, the reason would be this. Job growth, not as strong. Just maybe the economy's not as hot as it seemed to be a few weeks, just a few weeks ago, which suggests that the Federal Reserve might look at these numbers and say, okay, maybe we're not heating up and therefore the risk of inflation is not that high and we should cut interest rates again. And if you cut interest rates, and I've told you this, but this is one of those little financial principles that are worth repeating many, many, many times because I think people are confused by it. When interest rates go down, all else held constant, asset prices, including stocks, other assets, their value goes up. So any income-producing asset that produces assets over time, its value is going to go up when interest rates go down. So the expectation was that this will cause the Fed to lower interest rates. Now, I think that's probably true. I think the Fed is looking for excuses to lower interest rates. They want to lower interest rates. That's the general trend that they're on. And I think they'll do that. But there is a caveat here, and that caveat is that in spite of the fact that the Fed is reducing interest rates, remember the Fed controls short-term interest rates. Short-term interest rates. The fact that the Fed is controlling short-term interest rates, the challenge they're having is that the long-term interest rate, that is a 10-year interest rate, is going up. So the 10-year interest rate is projecting more inflation down the road, which would suggest. So there's often conflicting signals in the marketplace. And at the end of the day, one wonders whether the stock market should be following its anticipation of what the Fed does or its anticipation of where 10-year Treasury yield should be. And I'm not exactly convinced of its direction. Somebody says maybe it's because the market is expecting Trump to win. I mean, that might be the case, but then why did it go down? I think it went down yesterday or the day before. It went down a little bit. So I think right now the probability of Trump winning or losing is already priced. No new information about Trump winning or losing came out this morning. If anything, there was a few polls came out that were bad news for Trump and good news for Harris this morning. So you'd think if the market was anticipating a Trump victory and pricing that as a positive, it would go down. I think the market is generally, at this point, being very, very cautious about trying to estimate who will win and who will lose, because I mean everything's so close. So I think it's kind of staying out of it. What will be interesting is if Trump wins or if Kamala wins, how does the market respond, right? Does it go up or down for either one of them? Remember that under Biden, the stock market's done very well. And so, and the stock market does well often with Democrats. And to kind of, assume somehow that the stock market will do well under Trump but badly under Kamala, it's hard to tell. Now, some stocks will do better under Trump than under Kamala. There's no question about that. But stock prices are not that correlated with who the president is. And I know people love to do that. I remember the first term of Trump. Oh, the stock market's going up. Look how wonderful of a president Trump is. And I posted graphs of, well, they went up with Clinton even faster. They went up with Obama really, really fast. I mean, you want to say they're good presidents because the stock market went up? I mean, you got to separate those things out. When it comes to this. So it will be interesting to see right after. There are certain sectors that do better under Trump than under Kamala. There's other sectors that probably do better under Kamala than under Trump. Chinese stocks are in the doldrums no matter who wins. They're challenged. As I've told you before, Biden was much tougher on China than Trump ever was. So it's not clear what happens as we move forward vis-a-vis China. Let's see. So anyway, I thought you'd be interested in the fact bad economic news, stock market goes up. Because bad economic news suggests lower interest rates, which then, when you discount future cash flows, future profits, to today results in a higher stock price. Those of you, by the way, interested in kind of finance, we'll do a little bit of valuation stuff and we'll do some other stuff, but the history of finance, the morality of finance, but also evaluation, stock prices and bonds and what they are and all of that. I'm teaching a class on this at the Ayn Rand University starting in January. A 16-hour class on this. So join us for that. All right. So that's a little lesson vis-a-vis the stock market. Good news this morning. Maybe it was yesterday. We heard yesterday. Boeing announced, or I don't know if they announced or was just announced for them. Basically, Boeing, as you know, is in deep, deep trouble. I mean, they're losing a lot of money. They keep trying to restructure themselves. Their space division has not done well. We saw that. Oh, by the way, I made a mistake last week before, when I said that SpaceX has gone to get the 2 astronauts that were stranded there by the Boeing. That wasn't it. This was a scheduled getting 2 astronauts down by SpaceX. This was not the so-called rescue operation. That's going to happen, I think, in early next year. So I made a mistake about that. Anyway, Boeing Space is not doing well. The one profitable division of Boeing is probably their military stuff, the military-industrial complex stuff. But the airline, the building airliners is not doing well at all. Airlines are fed up with Boeing and the troubles they're having and the quality control issues they have. And Boeing has fired 2 CEOs already. It's got a new CEO now who's more on the engineering side, and the rumors of a turnaround and potential turnaround and real hustle down at Boeing. Anyway, one of the things that have happened because of the restructuring of Boeing. Oh, I'm doing this story out of line, but that's out of order. That's fine. One of the things that happened from that is that they have closed their DEI department, diversity, equity, and inclusion department. Has been closed. Now, you might, if you follow Chris Rufo. Earlier this year, he published a story that argued that DEI undermined competence at Boeing. Supposedly, this article helped put pressure on the new CEO, insiders putting pressure on the new CEO to close the department, shutter the department. And maybe Boeing will no longer hire based on DEI and is now focused on hiring engineers who actually can build planes and do quality control. I mean, that would be cool. Make you a lot more confident in flying in a Boeing airplane. So yeah, good news. I mean, DEI is failing and falling in lots of different places around the U.S., in a lot of companies and a lot of places are getting rid of the DEI. In academia, it'll hold on, but even there, its power is shrinking. Now, some of it is so well established and well ingrained into the culture that it's going to be very difficult to dislodge. But in some places, particularly places that have to go through restructuring, that are facing real issues and real problems where the market is forcing them to change, to rethink, to do something different, DEI is disappearing. So that is really, really good news. Maybe a lot of companies who don't want to land up in the situation Boeing is in and has been will preemptively shut down their DEI before they get into that position, before they get into that condition. So no more DEI at Boeing. That's pretty cool. All right, I mean, this is a story. This is a story in Bloomberg. It's a really good, uplifting, and I think exciting story. I mean, it's something that I don't think is new to anybody, but it is great to see somebody come out with a full-fledged story about this. And this is the fact that the oil and gas industry in the United States is just booming. And it's booming primarily, if you will, for the right reason. That is booming not because suddenly there's vast new land and they're going and drilling in all new places. I mean, there's some of that. But it's booming primarily because they have managed to increase labor productivity dramatically. Indeed, over the last decade, the industry that has increased labor productivity. Labor productivity means basically for an hour of effort, how much do you produce? And usually productivity goes up because of technology, because of innovation, because of new ways of doing things. And this is an industry that is just stunning. So if you look at some of the leading industries in the United States, I know oil and gas, information like tech, private non-farm businesses. Private non-farm businesses over the last 10 years have increased productivity by 15%. Okay, not bad, not bad. Tech. where you expect innovation, constant new products, constant pushing the envelope. Tech has increased productivity over the last 10 years by 61%. Really good. It's why wages are going up in the United States. Oil and gas. Oil and gas has increased productivity over the last 10 years by 187%. That is basically unheard of. And it's all a consequence of fracking. But then constant innovation when it comes to fracking. Constant innovation when it comes to fracking. And it's just unbelievable. I mean, this story has some examples that they give where, the plot of land is really narrow and they couldn't put 4 wells where they usually would put 4 wells. So they only put 2, but they managed to drill in a way that the pipe does a U-turn and comes back, and somehow I don't understand it. But it's the idea of, I mean, this is the quote from a CEO of a company called Matador, who's doing these drillings. He says, and this is so straightforward and so simple, right? When it's said out loud, that you go, well, of course. He says, it's outstanding, really. You give people a target, a goal, a purpose, and they'll find out better ways, better equipment, better techniques. Now, it's not just a target, it's a target associated with rewards. So, for example, in this case, the U-turn or horseshoe well is an example of the small improvements that together have pushed oil and gas producers to the biggest labor productivity gains of any U.S. sector over the past decade, including even tech-related industries, which have historically ranked first. The nation's crude output has risen to a record 13.3 million barrels a day, 48% more than Saudi Arabia, all with less than a third of the rigs and far fewer workers that they needed 10 years ago. So productivity has increased per rig and per worker. And that is amazing. It's just a stunning achievement. And it's a testament to kind of the people in the industry. It's a testament to what happens when you leave people, fairly alone, like free. Like, yes, there's a lot of, government involvement in where you can drill and environmental stuff and all this stuff, and you can't do this because of the snail, and you can't do that because of the desert rat or whatever. But in terms of how to drill, that's pretty much left alone. And there's a lot of money to be made, so the incentives are right around, incentives are aligned, and people come up with amazing new ways to increase productivity that didn't exist before. And it's truly stunning, and it's a testament to the human reason, a testament to human freedom, and a testament to the people, the specific people in this oil industry. I mean, a friend who lives in Austin, Texas, runs a company called Atlas Sand, and just the innovation that Atlas Sand has brought to the business of sand. Sand is used in fracking. It's blasted in with the water to extract the oil from the shale. And just the innovation that we've talked about, that he's described over the years in the mining, if you will, of sand, and its transportation and delivery to the wells, and the reduction in costs and the speed and efficiency. I mean, you've got all kinds of little things that are going on there in different pieces of the fracking industry that are all having an effect that's boosting production, making the United States produce more oil than it's ever in its history, more oil than anybody anywhere in the world. It's pretty amazing. I mean, U.S. oil production is estimated to grow by 600,000 barrels a day in 2025. So we're not even close to the end of this, but 50% more than this year's growth due to higher well productivity So, we have an incredibly productive energy sector, and that has amazing impacts on the rest of the economy. We'll get to the rest of the economy in a minute. And oil prices have come down. I mean, a lot of people, I think, were expecting. You remember this video I did? I don't want to brag, but you remember this video I did at the beginning of the Ukrainian war where Jordan Peterson was in his full-on prophet mode, and he was like, you shouldn't upset Russia. If you upset Russia, the way you're upsetting Russia, oil is going to go to $300 a barrel. And I'm predicting oil at $300 a barrel. And I made fun of that prediction. I think I was right. He was wrong. On that one, we can be pretty sure that that is the case. But a lot of people back then were predicting oil at over 100. Oil would stay solidly over 100 for a long time. Oil is at 70 right now, 70, 71, 72. It's relatively cheap. There's plenty of supply. There's plenty of demand. And yeah, I mean, the oil price coming down is not a shortage of demand. Although, as China, for example, shifts its automobile industry to electric, demand is gonna decline, but demand for natural gas is gonna increase because you're gonna have to produce the electricity. By the way, I did see this amazing graph of, as Germany has shut down its coal plants, and as Germany has shut down its nuclear plants, and has built solar panels and windmills, Germany is now getting ready to shut down its auto industry. And the amazing thing is the exact opposite is happening in China. And this gives you a sense of how central energy is to the economy. In China, the amount of energy they are producing through coal is going through the roof. And the amount of energy they're producing through nuclear is only increasing. And guess what's happened to their automobile production? Going through the roof. They're going to be the dominant player in the world by far. Part of that equation is cheap, available, stable, reliable energy produced by coal, nuclear, and natural gas. So, yeah, I mean, if you hamper your energy industry, as Germany has, if you make energy super expensive, as Germany has, don't be surprised when your manufacturers can't compete. Everything else put aside. Just on that one factor, they can't compete. Manufacturing is energy intensive. Just ask the AI guys who are now building, these massive server farms. And if you make energy cheap, abundant, stable, available, reliable, there's no limit to human ingenuity and production and what can happen. To some extent, that's happening in China. And, in America, we have cheap energy in a sense at the well, at that raw material base. The expense comes from our primitive, decaying infrastructure, from the fact that we're not investing properly in the delivery of electricity. We're not investing properly in the production of electricity. We're way overinvested in solar and wind, way underinvested in natural gas, and in particular in nuclear power. And the reliability is shot. Just look at the power outages in Texas and California. And yeah, that hurts everything. That hurts everything. And we're not very good at refining, primarily because of not in my backyard. Refining capacity in the United States has not grown dramatically. So we export a lot of our oil, and we import back refined products, which is ridiculous. This is super exciting. I'll just mention that this has happened in spite of the Biden administration. And here again, I will say, to a large extent, unless presidents do really, really horrible, stupid things, markets can do amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. and markets are doing amazing stuff. We'll get to some of the numbers from the U.S. economy in a minute. And I think oil is a good example. It's not sexy. It's considered polluting. It's climate change. It's this and that. But the reality is that the demand is there. The adoption of technology and the adoption of new innovation and just the ability of human beings to constantly improve, has made producing oil from fracking cheaper and cheaper, and therefore it's made it possible to really make a profit. And right now, frackers are making a profit. They have since 2019. They've been 2019, 2020. They've been making real profits since oil prices started going up, and oil prices now at a place where frackers are making nice profits, and the cost of production have gone down. And yeah, this is good. Somebody said oil prices closed today at 69.47. Yeah, around 70. And around 70, they make a good profit, right? And in 2014, at $70 an hour, just to give you a sense, in 2014, at $70 an hour, in the Permian Basin in Texas, given productivity, they would have broken even or made a small profit. Today, Permian Basin, fracking, they can make money at $40 a barrel. At $70 a barrel, they're making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money. And most of that money is going into investing in increased productivity. Drive the cost of production down even further. Again, the incredible upside, huge amount of investment in productivity, enhancement, in technology, and new ideas and new ways to doing things. That's what makes America unique. It's really what makes America unique. And it drives this economy. And the oil and gas sector is clearly the sector that is leading this economy. All right, so I've told you over and 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 over again, but this economy is doing really well, in particular, in comparison to other economies. Now, whoops, what would I do? Whoops, sorry. Now, it's true, it could be doing a lot better. It's true that doing well is doing well in certain sectors and not everywhere, and not everybody benefits from it. And cost of living has gone up, and we've had inflation, and a lot of things have gone bad. But generally, inflation adjusted, this economy is by far outpacing every other economy in the world. And while we can complain, and we should complain about inflation and all the other problems and regulations and controls and things like that, it's much worse everywhere else. It just is. And I know nobody wants to believe me because Biden was president. If Trump had been president, everybody would be saying, I am convinced of this. Everybody who today says the economy sucks, if Trump was president, would say today, this is the greatest economy we've ever had. And it flips, right? Most people's opinions about the economy are driven, at least to some extent, by tribalism. And if you think about housing, why housing prices are going up, they're going up because of a shortage of supply. It's very simple. And a shortage of supply is not controlled by the president. The president has almost no say in how many houses get built in the United States. They have no control of it. Almost all of housing policy is local in terms of supply. It's not in my backyard housing policies that have driven housing inflation up. And the good news is that in a lot of areas around the United States right now, housing prices are stabilizing and coming down because people have woken up to this issue and have changed the regulations and brought about more housing. More housing you build, the cheaper housing will be. Housing prices over the last 15 years have primarily been driven not by monetary inflation, but it'd be driven by shortages, shortage of supply. And shortage of supply being driven by, I think, really two factors. One is not in my backyard, zoning, regulations, controls that have limited supply. And two, shortage of labor in the construction business as a consequence of the fact that during the great financial crisis, a lot of the labor that was engaged in construction left the country. They went back to Mexico. We had negative illegal migration, if you will. People left, a lot of the Mexicans in particular, left the United States, went back to Mexico. There were more job opportunities over there post-financial crisis. If you want more houses, you want to reduce cost of housing, it's easy. Get rid of the regulations at the local level that restrict housing and open up the borders to more immigrants and make the ones that are already here and working, give them a work permit. All right, so I want to show you a few graphs. I like graphs. Now, let me just say right off the bat, look, all economic statistics are flawed. They're challenged. You can challenge them in a variety of different ways. None of them are perfect, particularly GDP kind of numbers. They're not perfect. But this is what we have. This is the best measures we have. And if you apply them cross-sectionally across different countries, I think you can get a good sense in terms of relationships in terms of different countries. So this one is a graph of labor productivity per hour. We just talked about labor productivity in the oil and gas sector. And my guess is that much of this increase in labor productivity in the United States is driven by the oil and gas. The United States is, on a labor productivity basis, more productive than any of the other countries. And that labor productivity has, does not discriminate, by the way, between Republican and Democratic presidents. It's gone up systematically since 1990. In 1990, in the Eurozone, this is Western Europe, so the Eurozone has changed a little bit, productivity was higher than the United States. But productivity in all these other countries, Japan, Britain, and the Eurozone, have all increased, but increased much, much, much slower than the United States. And that should be celebrated. That is huge. And by the way, productivity increases drive what? What do productivity increases drive? They drive wages. Wages are correlated to productivity increases. Productivity goes up, labor productivity goes up, wages go up. And indeed, wages in the United States, in spite of all the bitching and complaining and false statistics and make stuff up that economists have done over the years, wages have gone up in the United States. And I know you are told by economists on the left and on the right, and Donald Trump, of course, tells you this is the worst economy in human history, and the United States is fading and disappearing and going to hell, and everybody else is beating us, and on and on and on you could go, and none of that is true. I mean, we have problems, and the economy certainly could be a lot better, but it's pretty good. And it doesn't look like it's just going to implode and go away. By the way, the little dip there in labor productivity is COVID. Let's see some of the graphs. I mean, Wall Street. I mean, in terms of the size of market capitalization on Wall Street. Wall Street dominates global financial markets. The companies listed on Wall Street, the free float, that's the tradable securities on Wall Street, constitutes over 50% of the entire world stock market capitalization. I mean, that's huge. That means capital from all over the world flows to the U.S. And by the way, this is what I keep telling you about tariffs and about the dollar, right? Why do people want the dollar? Why do people sell us stuff to get dollars? So they can take those dollars and invest in the American stock market. Look how many people invest in a Chinese stock market. It's very, very, very tiny. It's almost non-existent. Or the British stock or British companies, or Japan, or Europe, I mean, they are dwarfed by the United States. The United States is the dominant economy in the world by a lot. There's only one period in which Japan increased significantly. That was the great stock market bubble in the late 1980s, and that didn't last for very long. The United States dominates. And again, you look at this, why would you be so pessimistic about, if you listen to Donald Trump, the United States is finished, it's dead, it's gone, if you listen to most people? Well, maybe, but then what is the condition of the rest of the world? I mean, what pisses me off is we could be a lot freer, could be a lot richer, and a lot freer. But that fact does not negate that we are free and we are rich. And that should be celebrated. Top 25 companies in the world by market cap. Let's see, what do we have here? Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft. Ooh, a Saudi company. This is because they got stuff in the ground and they have a monopoly, basically. Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, Berkshire Hathaway, Lilly, Broadcom, Tesla. They're all American companies. This looks like a Taiwanese company, right? TSMC, right? TSMC is the Taiwanese. There's a Denmark company. There's a Chinese company, and there's a South Korean company. But other than that, it's all American. Of the top 25 companies in the world, 20 American. Wow. Wow. Not a country in decline. Not a country fading away. Not a country that's finished. That's on the verge of collapse, I don't think. Again, at least relative to everywhere else in the world. This is foreign exchange reserves, right? In dollars, right? Foreign currency, debt issuance, cross-border, percent of world total. The U.S. dominates. The dollar dominates. There's just no other currency that comes close. And again, not exactly a country in decline. Median age of the population. This is interesting, right? Because we think the baby boomers are retiring. America's really old. We've got a lot of these baby boomers, top heavy, right? We're all getting old. This is really bad. But look, compared to everybody else, Britain is a little bit older. Europe's a little bit older. Japan, quite a bit older. And China, oh my God. Median age, 50% of Chinese population is over 60 years old. In the United States, 50% is under 40, over 40, right? That is going to change with demographics and everything. And I think these numbers are not updated. No, they are updated. This is a projection through 2098. Okay, that's right. So this is a projection through 2098. So right now, China is a little bit older than the United States, right? But it's going to be a lot older than the United States. And the United States is getting older, but not that older, not that fast, not that bad. We just don't suck that bad. Inflation adjusted. I love this graph on the top. Let's take this graph on the top. Private business is driving historically high levels of inflation adjusted R&D spending. Who's spending this R&D? Private enterprises. The private sector is. But look at that. That's a beautiful graph from 2010 until today. It was in the early part of the 2010s, it was slow, and then it's just gone straight up. And that's during, the curve changes during the second half of Trump, and then continues basically on the same slope under Biden. This one is business versus federally. And you can see that the top one is the total, and you can see that the what the federally funded and business funded. So business funded straight up, federally funded declining, and other up a little bit. Prime age employment. There's a big concern about, people in their prime age are not working in the United States. Yeah, J.D. Vance says, we'll replace all those illegal immigrants that we can deport. We're going to replace them with young people who are sitting in their parents' basement. But they're not that many. The fact is that prime age employment is higher than it was under Trump right now. And it's not quite as high as it was in the 1990s under Clinton. But that's mainly women. If you break down this graph, percentage of women who are working was higher under Clinton than it is right now. But look at that. I mean, that's an amazing graph. But that steep decline was COVID, of course. And you can see that it's been steadily increasing since the financial crisis, under Trump, under Obama, under Trump, and then under Biden, and then it's just continues to increase post-COVID. Household necessities in the United States, basically everybody has electricity. Almost everybody has an automobile. Everybody has a stove. Everybody has a radio. Everybody has a refrigerator. Washer, almost everybody. Dryer, almost everybody. Color TV, everybody. Air conditioning, almost everybody. Dishwasher, not so much. I guess some people are still doing dishes by hand. Look at microwaves. Smartphone, almost everybody. Internet, almost everybody. Mobile phone, everybody basically. Computer, almost everybody. And this suggests that even the poor in the United States are not poor by the standards of the past when people didn't have these things. This is Germany's industrial production recently and how it's gone down. Okay, I think that gives you the picture. This is a little bit about, all of that. So we'll skip that. So, yeah, stop being so down on everything economic. Again, it should be better, could be better, much richer, and much freer. I mean, think of how rich we are today, and think of how many entrepreneurs we are restraining, we are constraining, we are holding back because of our horrible educational system and because of our regulatory system. And then finally, let me say, why is this productivity increasing so much? And it's increasing so much because of basically one thing, and that is relative freedom. And one of the big areas in which the United States has had, maybe not no more, but has had relative freedom is immigration. A lot of those productivity gains have been created through innovation by immigrants. Silicon Valley is dominated, I think, by immigrants. Tech, generally, dominated by immigrants. So one of the scary things is that J.D. Vance and Trump want to destroy that capability. And I'm not sure Kamala is going to be, she's better in the sense that she doesn't want to deport people, but I'm not sure she has a rational view of what immigration should look like and how many more immigrants we should actually bring into this country so we can see all of these graphs keep going up, so all of us can become richer. All right. I hope that makes you a little bit more optimistic about the world in which we live. All right, finally, and then I'll go to your Super Chat questions. We've talked about this a few times, but I just keep seeing more and more stories about this, and it truly is amazing. Now, one of these days we'll get we'll get like something bad coming out about these drugs. But so far, these drugs, the GLP-1 drugs, Ozempic is one of them, are just, they look like miracle drugs. And I'm just going to say one more thing about the election because it's on my mind. And what is RFK's attitude towards Ozempic? I know what it is. It's very negative. You shouldn't have to take a drug to reduce your weight. You shouldn't have to take a drug to deal with diabetes. You shouldn't have to take a drug to do any of these things. You know, exercise and diet, exercise and diet. And you see even some people in objective circles claiming, oh, Big Pharma, the evil of Big Pharma, Big Pharma, really evil. Here's a drug that not only is taking obese people, we can talk about white people obese, but they are, and they are now. And it's not that easy to tell them to change their diet and go to exercise. But here's a drug that actually helps them with obesity in a significant way. 1 injection a week. But in addition to that, it lowers their cardiovascular risk even after adjusting for the fact that their weight has gone down. It lowers their risk of kidney disease. And stunningly, recently, people who are on Ozempic are less likely to get Alzheimer's and are less likely to be prone to addictions of all kind. Now, these are stunning results. And these are drugs, of course, produced by evil Big Pharma, primarily by Novo Nordisk out of Denmark, but now also by Eli Lilly out of, I think, New Jersey. And there are going to be more of these. There are going to be more of these. This is a market that is worth about $1 trillion. And it's going to get, these drugs are going to get cheaper and cheaper. And there are going to be more and more and more studies. And as they get cheaper, people might consider using them to preempt for Alzheimer's. People are looking for a life extension drug. These might have some life extension benefits. It certainly seems like they're taking out a lot of the diseases that shorten your life. So right now, you know, we've got the jabs once a week. Nobody wants to inject themselves once a week with something. So evil pharmaceutical companies, the ones we love to hate, are eagerly at work, racing indeed, to come up with a pill. And you're going to see that. You're going to see generic versions of all the GLP-1 drugs coming in. One of those already is going to go off patent in Brazil, China, India in 2026. And just China is working on 8 different types of drugs here. Again, imagine, and I know this is, to me, this is like the horror of all horrors. Imagine RFK in a position in a Trump administration running healthcare, trying to subvert all this. It's pretty amazing. I mean, I'm particularly interested in, excited about the ability of these drugs to prevent or to lessen brain shrinkage as we age and cognitive decline in Alzheimer's. And it looks like these drugs can help in that. Now, again, nothing's definitive, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a researcher, but this looks like incredibly exciting. And yet there is a movement on the right, together with a movement on the left, that are anti-tech, anti-innovation, anti-pharma, anti-improving human life, even if they deny that that's their goal. So, I mean, these GLP drugs are truly amazing. I mean, again, don't get diabetes, don't become obese, work out, eat healthy foods. You know, RFK talks about that stuff. Most of it is true. And it might turn out that popping a GLP-1 drug once a day as part of your longevity regime, will extend your life and reduce the probability of disease. And some pharma companies are going to make $1 gazillion off of that, and I'm not against that. I am all for that. I am all for that. Good for them, and I'm looking forward to discussing with my doctor, what drug regimes I should be taking in order to extend and improve my life. There are already a number of drugs, pharmaceuticals. One that Peter Attia takes, which I'm not going to repeat its name because I don't want to come off as giving anybody advice out there. It's medical stuff. And another one that's also a diabetic drug that somebody I met who is one of the leaders in life extension medicine out there, one of the pioneers of life extension medicine out there, has talked about. They are pharmaceuticals that have been shown, at least in animal models and to some extent in humans, can and are increasing longevity, and incredible, powerful stuff. I'm excited. I'm excited by pharmaceuticals. I know. I can already see the emails. I can already see the texts. All right, Ali. Oh, yes. Whoa. Slow down. All right. The Yaron Brook Show is sponsored by a number of sponsors. I think last week certainly yesterday I cut out the sponsors completely, and I did that purposefully because I was worried about, certainly with the Ayn Rand Institute, I was worried, but also Alex and others. I didn't want them necessarily associated with my anti-Trump ranting. So I did not mention the sponsors, but today I'm returning to the sponsors, and I think I was hurried. And I skipped over some of the sponsorships, which is not right, because I pay for these. So Alex Epstein, the leading authority, and I think the world on fossil fuels, energy, climate change, and environmentalism. And what the beauty of what Alex is producing these days is he's producing talking points that you can take to the dinner table. You can take to the Christmas party. You can take to that god-awful Thanksgiving dinner you have to be with all the relatives. And some of them might be leftists, and some of them might be just environmentalists. And they rant, and 98% of scientists and all this stuff. And Alex they'll give you a bullet points, like a list of things. Here's how to combat this. Here's to combat that. Here's to combat this other thing. And it's succinct, it's condensed, it's easy to communicate, and it completely pulls the rug out from under your relatives and friends who might hold these ideas. So you should subscribe to Alex Epstein's Substack. It's alexepstein.substack.com, and you should subscribe to that. Alex also has, as a premium feature, an AI, Alex AI, where you can ask that AI, like somebody says something you've never heard before about energy or about environmentalism, and you can go, once again, and then you go to the bathroom. In the bathroom, you can go, Alex AI, how would you respond to somebody saying X, Y, Z? And it'll give you the response. And it's not being second-handed, because I also assume you're going to read Alex's book and know all this stuff and internalize it. But, on the specialized questions, on the specialized issues that people tend to bring up, you need an expert. I, for one, am not against elites or against experts. I embrace expertise. Alex is an expert. alexepstein.substack.com. Ayn Rand Institute. Ayn Rand Institute is holding, as I've told you, 3 Ayn Rand conferences around the world in the next few months. One in Brisbane, Australia. First of all, anybody can come. You have to pay tuition, and you can spend the time there, and you should. If you live in Australia, let me just say, I would love to have you there so I can meet up with you and say hello. But those of you who are students who might not have the money, the tuition is steep, I think, or just don't have the money, but are serious students of objectivism, even if you're not a student, and would like to apply for a scholarship, you should. So there's one in Brisbane in December. There's one in Austin, Texas in February, and there's one in Berlin in March. All of them have some of the leading objectivist intellectuals. Nikos and I will be in Brisbane. Greg Salamieri and Ben Baer will be in many more will be in Austin. And in Berlin right now, what I know is Nikos, Onkar, and I think Tara Smith. So go, engage, discuss. You get to meet other objectivists who are like you, so that's fun. And you can get a scholarship that pays your travel expenses and your room and board and your tuition. So to do all that and to register for the conference, if you're not applying for a scholarship, you can go to aynrand.org/start here. aynrand.org/start here. And you can benefit from all that. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. And I'm hoping that everybody who listens to the Yaron Brook Show in Australia comes to Brisbane. I'm really hopeful that happens. All right. Super chats. Ali says, fast recovery, Yaron. Thank you, Ali. Really, really appreciate it. Ori says, follow up from yesterday. Can you comment on the effect that Trump had on the Republican Party? Yeah, I didn't do that yesterday. One of the points I probably missed. Is it historically unprecedented for a party to kowtow around a candidate like this? I think it is, but I'm not sure. I don't know the history of the parties that well. Did FDR really change the Democratic Party in the 1930s? Probably. I'm trying to think if anybody really dramatically changed the Republican Party that I know of. Yeah, I don't know. But it's quite possible that FDR completely shifted the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party of today is the Democratic of FDR. But Trump has had a devastating, and I've talked about this many times on the show in the past, one of the great sins of Donald Trump, one of the things where he deserves to lose in a landslide so you get a shift, is the extent to which he has turned the Republican Party into a mindless party, into an anti-capitalist party, into an anti-American party, and into a tribalistic party. Now, look, you can't force people to become all that. It's not like he did it behind their backs. But that is the impact that he has had. He has moved us closer towards a dictatorship. He has moved us closer towards authoritarianism. And he's definitely, encouraged, rewarded, facilitated tribal mindlessness to an extent that I've never seen in America. I mean, it started on Obama with the Democratic Party, but it never got to the kind of extreme that we are seeing with Trump and have seen with Trump for like 8 years now. So thank you, Ori, for bringing that up because it's something I didn't cover yesterday. Stuart, do you think it's time to reform or eliminate the Electoral College? Would we be in a better place politically without it? I mean, it's an interesting question. I'm tempted by it, primarily because I think it's a little ridiculous that the entire political campaign is focused right now on 7 states, some of them pretty small, like Nevada, and have little population. And that the campaign is not fundamentally a national campaign. And it's states like California and New York and Texas, and Florida, which are massive states in terms of population, the candidates are basically ignoring. I mean, they do a little bit here, like Trump did in Madison Square Garden, but basically ignoring. And if you had if it was just a popular vote and no Electoral College, then you basically would have the candidates focus a lot on the big cities, which is good, because that's where most people live. And you would have them focused a lot on very popular states, which is good, because that's where most people live. I think you'd have a much more interesting discussion. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's certainly something to think about, and I used to rule it out, but I'm less and less so. And it's not because of who. I mean, Trump could win the popular vote. It's not because who wins and who loses. and how it skews. I think it's more just because of how the campaign is run and the obsession with these battleground states, what they call the battleground states, and how static that is. Thomas, sorry, didn't mean to sound so brash and grumpy yesterday. Discussing the election makes me grouchy and blunt. No problem, Thomas. I respect that. Shazbad, Huey Lewis got his wish as per his song. I want a new drug, although they likely exceed his expectations. I don't know who Huey Lewis is, but I think he was thinking about a different drug, maybe. I don't know. Just no idea. Andrew, a country's material success depends on the country's ideas. Mind and body are one. Rand called the American standard of living the miracle of the ages. That's a testament to reason and freedom instilled by the founders. Yes, and what's truly amazing is how resilient it is to constant, nonstop attacks. And I believe, and I know many, many, many of you will disagree with this, but I believe that one of the reasons it's so resilient to it is because of its relatively lax and open immigration policies. It has allowed people who still believe in Enlightenment values, who still believe in reason and individualism, who still believe in freedom to come here. Me, for example. Elon Musk, not that I compare myself to Elon Musk, but Elon Musk, for example. It is our immigration policy that allows the Elon Musks of the world to come here and thrive, which I think is so is made it possible for us to be so resilient. And I think if we just limited it to native-born Americans, we'd be in a lot worse shape than we are today. And I know I'm going to be called names for that one. But after yesterday's show, you should see my Twitter feed. It's actually not as bad as I thought it would be, and I didn't lose. I kind of broke even yesterday on subscribers, so there wasn't a big falling off the cliff of subscribers. I guess everybody already knew where I stood. Esoteric dichotomy. Hey, Yaron, is property tax and income tax a better method for funding the military? I know in true ideal, all taxes would be voluntary, but for now, also, which is more moral, property taxes or income taxes? I don't like property taxes. I don't like property taxes because property is a static thing. I mean, let's say you inherit some property. Suddenly, you have to owe a bunch of taxes. But the property might not be income producing, and you'd have to sell the property in order to pay the taxes. So there's no, property taxes are really, really irrational. They're really, really immoral. They basically are saying to you, you don't even own your home. You're leasing it from the government, trying not paying your income tax, and the landlord will come and kick you off. I don't like income taxes, but income taxes I think are much better. They're at least taking something out of something that you're producing so that you can pay them. You have the income to pay them. It's a percentage of. So in a competition between the two, I would abolish property taxes and keep income taxes if that were my only options. My preferred method is to get rid of both property and income taxes and go to a flat consumption tax. A flat consumption tax. But that would never happen because it's regressive. Poor people pay a bigger part of their income in taxes than rich people in a consumption tax. Michael, in a free society, if there are no government-issued ID cards and the police arrest someone, how will they be able to confirm the person's identity? It might be difficult. It might be difficult, but the job is not to make the job of the police easy. In a free society, you're private. You might not be, your picture might not be all over the place. And the police will have to come up with different methods in order to figure out who you are and what you are and all of that. So, yeah, the goal is not to ease the job of the police. Michael, why are Republicans so gung-ho about deregulating energy but not any other industry? Because of Alex Epstein's influence? I mean, I certainly think Alex has had an influence, particularly in giving the Republicans the cojones, the kind of courage to stand up to the environmentalists, even within their own party, and to stand up to environmentalists in the Democratic Party, and stand up to environmentalists in the culture. I think Alex, through all the people he has influenced, including many CEOs of oil and gas companies, has had that influence. I'm not sure that's the only thing. I think the other part of it is, look, oil and gas industry is an industry that is primarily located in areas that are strongly Republican, Texas, rural areas. It is, I think it's probably always been related to Republicans. It's kind of the kind of industry it is. Yeah, I mean, that's what I can think of. It really is a shame that they're not willing to. And it's also one where you can see the results pretty quickly. I wish they were more anti-immigration and everything else as well. Jennifer says, Huey Lewis, I want a new drug song. It goes, I want a drug that makes me feel like I feel when I'm with you. It's a cute song. That sounds like a cute line. Okay, that's a cute line. All right, Robert Nasir says, yes, things should be even better. But how can we be doing so demonstrably, undeniably well under Biden-Harris MAGA heads undoubtedly exploding? Yes, they are. They are exploding. And this is why, you know, I've always said you cannot attribute the economy to the president. You cannot attribute any given. Plus, you know, you could make the argument that things that Trump did while he was president don't just disappear once he stops being president, and they continue into the, so they have a life, and so their momentum continues. But that could be said the same thing about Obama to Trump, and Bush to Obama, and Clinton to Bush. I just don't like attributing to presidents too much credit. The one thing that Trump did, which has helped Biden, which has helped all of us, which has helped the economy, is cutting corporate taxes. Huge impact on wages, huge impact on prices, on other stuff. Cutting corporate taxes was, from an economic perspective, certainly the best thing Trump did. Jacob voted for Donald J. Trump, so RFK shuts down VCIF. I'm not sure what VCIP is, and CDC. Yeah, I mean, let me make a prediction, Jacob, that RFK will not shut them down, but he will increase dramatically the number of witch doctors that are acting as if they're real doctors in those agencies, and that both agencies, as a consequence, will become more corrupt, less efficacious, less efficient, less productive, and that overall our health will deteriorate. And even if I thought if RFK would shut down the CDC and the VCIP, which I assume I'm against the agencies, the damage RFK is going to do to the pharma industry, the damage RFK is going to do to vaccines and childhood vaccines and everything else, the damage RFK is going to do to our health is far more greater than the benefit we get from not having a CDC and a VCIP. JPS, in an ideal world where the federal government was limited to only protecting individual rights, would there be a need for state, county, city governments? Yeah, I think there would be. There are unique issues that state, city, county governments deal with that relate to specific concerns relating to property rights that federal government just doesn't get into the minutia of. I don't know, noise abatement. I even think there's certain issues around drug laws that would relate to locality. You know, I think that, but you know, so I think that it's completely legitimate to have different regulations of drugs, of guns in a city than it is in the wilderness, in some backward place. But certainly property rights, there might be issues. There might still be issues, even if it was completely privatized, around water and electricity. Now, again, all those governments would be a lot smaller and have less to do. And then there are some things where certain definitions about property rights where it's optional. There are a variety of different ways in which you can do it. And it would be good to have different state or local governments experiment with that. And we can have these experiments to see which ones work better. I mean, even when it comes to mineral rights, should mineral rights accrue to the people who have the surface, who own the surface? Should they accrue to the people who find the minerals, even if they are like drilling diagonally into underneath your property? And if it's to the people who find the minerals, what about any effect that they're sucking the minerals out of your property or beneath your property has on your land value or on maybe they cause, I don't know, noise, or they cause shaking. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. The point is there are all kinds of local things that I don't know that there's one clear, easy answer, and it would be better to have, different. You could have different criminal penalties for laws would be more localized. You'd have local police. You'd have a local judiciary. There's state laws, and I think criminal law should be state, unless it's so egregious that the federal government should step in. And there should be standards by which the federal government can step into local affairs. A clear, unequivocal violation of individual rights. Let me think of an example. Slavery, for example. Then the federal government should be able to step into local affairs. But there should be a lot of experimentation allowed within the context of individual rights at the local level. Andrew says, I know it's hard to be serious about RFK, but do you think, no, I am serious about RFK. Do you think his skeptical derision towards Big Pharma is a serious injustice to its actual value? Yes, it's a serious injustice. He is a bad, evil human being who has deceived millions of people around his claims around issues about healthcare, and who is seriously dangerous when it comes to getting him close to Big Pharma, or to pharma generally. Why just big? So, yeah. All right. That, I think, is all the super chats. The Lucky Day, thank you for the sticker. John Bales, thank you for the sticker. The Lucky Day again, thank you for the sticker. Oops, I skipped one. John Bales again. No, John Bales and Lucky Day are dominating stickers today. Carolina did a sticker, and Daniel did a sticker, and Manas, thank you for the sticker. Yeah, thank you guys. And thanks to all the super chatters. I appreciate it. And let me just say, I will say JPS 1776, who asked a question about city government and state, federal government. That was his 10th super chat. Congratulations and thank you. Thank you for that. Oops. All right, everybody. Thank you. I will see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow there's a special show, either at 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I haven't decided yet. I'll let you know later today. On inflation. Everything you ever wanted to know and were afraid to ask about inflation, we'll talk about that. Tomorrow, I've got a whole list of questions, but hopefully you will bring some more questions to the super chat as well, and we will talk then. And on Sunday there's a Hebrew show, my Israel show. Talk to you guys all over the weekend. Have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.